made some critical mistakes in the third quarter on those first two drives, and we're not good enough right now to overcome many self-imposed, mistakes, if you will.
Hello and welcome back, Eddie Radosovich. George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And Maine week. It's here.
Excited.
It is kind of weird because I do think that it has come at a pretty damn good time for a team that is obviously struggling.
Perfect time. Should have come a few weeks ago.
If you want to get into, more about building confidence, all that kind of stuff that comes into a non-conference game that you usually see in September. Well, here comes Maine, 4-4 on the year. They beat or upset Villanova earlier in the season. We will be checking in and catching up with Jack Webb, who covers Maine, played football for Maine not too long ago. I believe he's the 2022 graduate of Maine. So they're coming down. We had a good conversation with him to get a little bit better idea about this Maine football team. Don't really know a whole lot. Going to be honest about that. But here they come. And Saturday, 1:30 kickoff in Norman. And, as we said, we talked about it on Tuesday in the practice report following Brent Venables' 6-minute press conference. This is a situation that over the next 2 weeks, you do have good opportunity to get a couple wins and get bowl eligible.
Yeah, this is the end of the season starts now, right? Like this is the run that they need to go on. You heard it this week from Brent talking about trying to go on a winning streak, trying to win some games to finish this season strong. And obviously it's going to be tough after this game, but you and I've said it all week. If you can go out, build some momentum, kind of kick Maine's ass, really, and just feel a little bit better about yourself. I know it's Maine. We're going to say that a lot in the next, few days, talking about, keeping it in perspective. But I do think that part of me is a little bit excited, Eddie, just to see OU maybe win a football game.
Right. Well, at least dominated an opponent that you're supposed to. And I think that, winning battles up front on the line of scrimmage, moving bodies, continuing on a run game that seemingly was okay in Oxford a week ago, especially in the first half.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be an issue this week. If you were able to do that against Ole Miss, then you shouldn't have an issue against Maine doing that. That's the reality of the situation. So I'm also interested to see, are we going to see some new guys out there? Are they going to try and give some other guys an opportunity to showcase their skill and maybe get on the field for the last 3 games? And, do any guys return from injury? I don't know. No availability
I was going to ask
report.
you because we don't have the availability report this week. But, I don't expect any of the wide receivers to come back. Possibly still fingers crossed that you can get a Jalil Farouk or somebody like that back next week when you jump back into the SEC schedule. But just in terms of anything coming out this week from practice or anything like that that maybe raises an eyebrow. Good or bad? I know there's been a lot of bad this week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think so.
I say this week. I meant this year.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah. You never know.
You never know.
Especially this season. You never know.
It seems like guys are dropping like flies, so we'll have to pay attention in warm-ups this week to see if everybody's out there. But like you said, I don't anticipate any of the receivers being back. I think that, Deion Burks, again, suffered the setback last week. I don't know his timeline. I know Farouk is getting close, and he's been shooting for the Missouri game, which would be obviously a huge boost, especially if you could get him and Burks in that game. Andrell Anthony and Nick Anderson, I just don't see it happening this year.
Sure.
But those two guys, offensive line-wise, I think it's going to be the same group. We'll see. But other than that, Eddie, I think it's going to be the same group we saw out there against Ole Miss.
Sure. It's all about a little bit of the mindset this week, and Brent Venables talked about it on Tuesday when he was asked, when you got a team like Maine, is it not that you can take it lightly, but it does have to feel good that know that you're preparing for an opponent that you should beat. You're a 34.5-point favorite, and here is Brent Venables on Tuesday.
Well, just what you do every week. It's you got to know the DNA of the new team, but it's a nameless, faceless. It's about you, your standards, how you practice, how you prepare, the sense of urgency, the fundamentals. Are you improving, getting better? Your mindset, your attitude, your workload, your intensity, your focus on detail. You can't cheat the game. And so it don't matter about the opponent. If we don't take care of us, if we don't do those things that I just said, if we're not coming in, if we've been I'm going to come in and do extra recovery this week. I got a routine of red light therapy. Oh, but not this week because this team, we're only favored by this, or we're not favored. We're down. So, this is Texas, so I'm going to practice this way. And listen, I know what the results have been. I've in a really tough way, have lived through all of it. I'm the leader of it, and I take all of it, and that's appropriate. But man, you don't play to a scoreboard or an opponent. You just don't. And every week is again a season of its own. It's always the biggest game of the year. It's a great opportunity to improve and get better for us. We're on a 3-game losing streak. Hey, let's get back on track. Let's start to create a little momentum, and then we feel a little bit better. Winning cures a lot.
Winning does cure a lot, and it's going to be interesting to see. I think that we talked to the players. We had a little bit of that. We've talked about it on the message board. We talked about it on the unofficial 40. But when you're talking about a team that there's certainly no quit right now, right, with this Oklahoma team, which again, some of the conversations that we've had throughout the year, it's like, holy shit, I can't believe that we're having these conversations right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any quit. It's hard because we're not in the locker room.
Sure.
But, all the guys
There's
are saying...
There's a reality, though. They know what everybody's saying on social media and what idiots like us are saying on YouTube right now.
Yeah, and these guys are saying all the right things, and we'll play some clips from the players this week here in a minute. But, I think that one thing we can say about Brent Venables is he has created a really strong culture. And I do think that I'm sure there's some players in there that are pretty down about the way the season's gone, and there's going to be some players that end up entering the transfer portal because of the way this season has gone. But I think the core leadership of a lot of these guys has rubbed off on a lot of the younger players. We talked to Eli Bowen and Taylor Tatum this week, 2 true freshmen that have really had to step up, and it sounds like they've really stayed engaged despite a lot of the negativity that's gone around with the program this year and in terms of the way the season has gone. And so I think those are always good signs to hear about those guys and hear from them about how they're staying focused, how they're still engaged with this thing, even if it's not going their way.
We heard from Kip Lewis and R. Mason Thomas on Tuesday, and they're veterans of the program.
Yeah.
R. Mason, obviously. Kip Lewis is certainly filling into that role. He's going to be asked a little bit more when he is one of the guys, and I guess he is to a certain extent. But we did talk to him after practice on Tuesday just to get a little bit of a vibe of the locker room and some of the stuff that maybe some of these senior-laden guys are saying to the younger guys.
Big opportunity, big chance to get momentum for this next stretch, this next run. And so, we got to come out here and capitalize on it. Throughout the 3 losses, I know it's bad, but I really feel like it shows how together we are, still fighting, still competing together as a team. Nobody has quit on anybody. Nobody has came in and just not decided to just show up that day. And so I really feel like that shows our resilience, our fight as a team, and our brotherhood just in general.
Yeah, I think we responded well because what's in the past is in the past. We got to move on, and if we're going to let last week and the week before or the weeks before that define what we can do this week, we might as well just forfeit all the rest of the games.
I love what I do and who I do it with. I would not show up for my teammates. I would not do anything for them. I lay it all down on the line for them.
Do you think that rubs off on other guys?
Yeah, I think it's one of my mottos of, energy is contagious and you can feed off of it. And so I just tell my guys, just look at me. You could look at me for energy and I'll be endless for it.
Yeah, tremendous because that was my first time going 6-7 in my football since I was playing 7. So it definitely does. You already went through a season of it. So I'm not saying we're going through a season of it right now, but because it's not the same season, but you can have different things you take away from that season and carry over to not not start fast this week or not, lackadaisy, giving less effort just because we're losing, nothing like that.
Lackadaisy, that's a new term that I'm going to have to steal from R. Mason Thomas.
I love R. Mason. That
He's
dude's intense, man.
Yeah,
he looks you right in the eye when you ask a
Looks
question.
through your soul sometimes.
Yes. Yeah.
A good thing. I mean, obviously, it's been a rough go. Oklahoma losing 3 consecutive games. It certainly doesn't happen. They're winners of 48 consecutive games against non-conference opponents. That will be up against it on Saturday. 48 non-ranked opponents, I should say.
Yeah,
we should
I was about to
clarify
say, wow,
there.
that's a hell of a stat.
Haven't lost 3 consecutive home games. Go into this one having lost 2 consecutive home games. That's the first time since 2014. Up before that, they had only done it 1 time since 1999. Oklahoma has not lost 3 consecutive home games since 1997. So certainly one of those.
You don't want to be in that category. We've talked a lot about it.
One of those boxes that hasn't been checked this year, and fingers crossed that it doesn't get checked on Saturday, or We might get X-rated on the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. Before we get to Jack Webb, let us tell you about Prize Picks. All you got to do is go download Prize Picks, the app, or go to the website, prizepicks.com, and get $50 back. I'll put $5 in, get $50 guaranteed instantly using the promo code Sooner Scoop. And we go to you, George. Who are we going with this week?
Yeah, I've got two G5 players I'm going with this week in college football. Last week, I think I did NBA and gave out a winner. So this week, going back to college football, I'm taking Darian Mensah, the Tulane quarterback. Yep, over 184.5 yards passing. Okay. And then Ashton Jeanty, Boise State running back, one of the Heisman hopefuls, over, I think it's 184.5 rushing yards.
Little Friday night spectacular for you on Boise State.
I think it's a big game this week.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that. A little bit of a down game last week.
We say down. I think he was like 130 something yards.
For him.
Yeah,
we're chasing Barry Sanders' single season rushing record. Kyler Murray over 217.5 as he goes up against Caleb Williams this weekend.
I like that.
At Soldier Field, or I think it's back in Arizona. And then Tyreek Hill. Let's go over 49.5 receiving yards against Buffalo this weekend. Him and Tua, they looked a little bit better in the loss to Arizona a week ago. All you got to do, though, to play, get the $50 instantly, put in $5, go to prizepicks.com or just download the app, which is very, very easy to use. So now for a little bit more on the Maine Black Bears, we go to our guy. I think he's our guy now.
He's awesome.
Jack Webb, former Maine football player, as well as does some stuff with, I believe it is Fox ABC in Maine, as well as a radio show, 92.9. But good to catch up with him. Good to know a little bit more about the Maine Black Bears. Now we welcome in Jack Webb, a sports reporter for Fox ABC Maine, host on 92.9 The Ticket in Maine, as well as do some sideline reporting, I believe, for the Maine football team. But Jack, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. It's a weird week for, I guess, Oklahoma to step outside of SEC play. But let's just start here. Obviously, had a big win over Villanova, number 5 team in the country. In terms of what Maine's getting out of this week and coming down to Norman and playing Oklahoma, kind of what's the vibe around the team right now, and just the excitement around a trip down to Norman?
Yeah, I think you say it's a weird matchup for you guys, right? I think when the schedule came out and the Maine Black Bears saw, okay, you're not going to go play Oklahoma in September. You're going to go play them in November, right? I think that was a big eye-opener for the Black Bears coming off a tough stretch. They played their last 4 games have been at Albany, which was a ranked game at the time. Then they went down to Delaware, which they lost a tough road game there. It was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Delaware pulled away at the end with a late pick 6, but they would be a top 10 FCS team if they weren't going up to the FBS next year, which disqualifies them for postseason FCS play, FCS rankings, things of that nature. Like you said, big win over Villanova, tough road loss over number 15 against number 15 Rhode Island last week. So they've exceeded expectations so far from the outside. So they're, just to give you some backstory, back-to-back 2-9 seasons for the Black Bears in 2022, 2023. So head coach Jordan Stevens came in that off season in spring of 22. He's been kind of implementing his culture, chipping away at it, and it's finally showing through here. They sit at 4-4, and from the outside, obviously the expectations in the building are way higher than being 4-4 at this stretch. But from the outside looking in, I think you've seen improvement and growth.
Jack, tell us about Jordan Stevens. I know he's in his third year now as Maine's head coach. I think 35 years old, young guy. I think came over from Yale, if that's correct. So tell us about the job that Jordan Stevens has done, and especially now in his third year, it seems like things are starting to maybe head in the right direction.
So he is a Maine guy through and through. Grew up, went to Mount Blue High School, which is over in western Maine. Went to Bridgeton Academy, a Maine prep school, for a post-grad year. Played at Maine, was an all-CAA defensive end, wore the number 9, which is kind of a program tradition that goes to the best defensive end. He played at Maine, like I said, started his coaching career at Maine, moved on to Yale, became DC, won a couple Ivy League championships down there, and then he was the one who got that Maine head coaching job. And he's slowly implemented his culture. I think you could tell when he first got there, when I was still a player in that spring of 22, he wasn't walking on eggshells, but you could tell he wasn't being his full self, who he wanted to be. This offseason, you saw him be his full self. I mean, he played under Jack Cosgrove, who's a legendary old school Maine coach that was, I think, over 20 years. He was the head coach at the University of Maine. And for any Maine fans that might be able to see this, I might have butchered that. It might be way longer. So he implemented the grit that Coach Kaz would always preach. Like this offseason, for example, I mean, 20-degree weather, those guys are out there carrying logs, like that type of thing. He tried to embody kind of that Maine toughness mindset and implement it into his program, into his players. And he's really done a good job at that. And I think you've seen that show in games this year, not only in the wins, but also the close losses.
Let's go to the offensive side of the ball. Let's get into a little bit of what Maine will be bringing to Norman. Carter Peavy with career highs in yards and completions a week ago against Rhode Island. Before that, they had won, I believe it was 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 going in. So they are playing pretty good football on that side of the ball. Just in terms of offensively, what you're looking at, and Carter Peavy specifically at quarterback, what is he bringing to Norman?
He brings a lot of experience. It's funny because the Maine quarterback who everyone thought was the present and the future, and Derek Robertson transferred to Monmouth. That kind of shocked everybody in the program, around the program, who followed last December in the winter transfer portal window. And then you get this guy, Carter Peavy, to commit, coming from Mercer. The Black Bears kind of got lucky. At the beginning of the portal window opening, he was getting married. So he kind of missed out on like that early kind of week 1, week 2 offers where a lot of guys are snatched off the board. Next thing you know, he comes back from enjoying his wedding, enjoying spending time with his family, his new family. Black Bears are kind of one of the last teams left for him right there, and everyone's clicking on his highlight tape. First play on the highlight tape's like a 70-yard touchdown running in a bye game against Ole Miss. So he brings some experience to the table. He led Mercer to a FCS playoff win in 2023. He also played in that spring season of 21 when the FCS played in the spring. So he's got a lot of snaps under his belt, and you've seen that really help him and help this offense this season. And just kind of on those third down situations, he's poised, he's cool, he's calm, collected, knows when to take the check down, knows when to hang in for the shot, knows when to scramble. So I wouldn't say he's necessarily an elite passer or an elite runner, but he's very efficient with both, and he's smart with the decisions he makes.
Jack, who are some of the playmakers around him that OU fans should get to know?
I think OU fans are going to want to know, to make this a little interesting tidbit for them. You got Randy Moss's son, Teague Moss, on the Maine Black Bears roster. He really locked in this offseason, took his body serious, took the offseason work serious. He came in the best shape of his life. He always had the hands. He always had the jump ball ability in the red zone. But this year, he's become a complete and rounded out as a wide receiver. He can make that, third and long catch at the sticks. He's got all the routes under his belt. So I think he's definitely one to watch. The mixed bag of running backs. Jahari Martin has been dressing the past couple of games. He's just kind of the workhorse back, kind of established that in the offseason. Hasn't been playing, and I don't know what the current situation is with that. He's been dressing, so I don't know if it's like he's giving it a shot pregame and can't be able to go. But if he can go on Saturday, him and Brian Santana-Fish are some bruisers. And then you got Tavion Banks, who's more of a pass-catching back out of the backfield to kind of contrast that. And then the tight ends are where this team is really strong. You got Cooper Heisey, who's a transfer from Rutgers, who it really is an all-around tight end. He's an elite FCS blocker. He's way better than expected after the catch. And then you mix that with Eli Mahan, who's a Maine homegrown product out in that Western Maine Coach Stevens territory. If he could pick anyone, he'd be Tim Riggins. If they let him, he would be a fullback, not even a tight end. So he's a physical bruiser. And then you got a 6'8" target in Mason Gilbert coming over from Lafayette. He was a first-team All-Patriot League selection, rounded out with Declan McKevitt, who's just another good all-around tight end. And I think that's where you see the strength of the offense come in when you get those tight ends involved in the run and the pass. So I think you should watch out for them. And then for wide receivers that have some big playability, Mo Arafin, D3 transfer, actually. So we did a story on him this week, how you go from D3 last year. I looked it up. 960 people at his game on this weekend last year. Going to be a little bit different on Saturday, obviously. And then Joey Gillette, he's a big play wide receiver. You see him catching shots all season long. He's actually another fun tidbit for you guys. I'm just throwing them all at you. Beat cancer twice. So we got some good storylines. We got some good storylines in this Maine Black Bear team coming to Norman.
It's fantastic. Montego Moss coming off of his best game, I think, career high 9 receptions against Rhode Island. On the defensive side of the ball, Jack, it seems like a team during that winning streak and during the winning of 3 of 4 before last week, they didn't have a turnover against Rhode Island force, but 10 turnovers over the course of those 4 weeks going in. What are they doing? Opportunistic defense? Just defensively, what are we looking at with Maine?
you guys are looking at a defense that's going to get after it, pretty basic on the back end. And I don't think, unless they got it in the game plan where they're really going to try to switch things up, because in a game like this, it's kind of a screw it, let it rip mindset,
Sure.
right? But you're looking at a defense who's really found themselves and found their identity again. And I say again because the Maine defense has a long-standing tradition. They're called the black hole. They're supposed to be the strength of the defense. You're supposed to come up here to the woods in Maine because the reality in the CAA is the closest game you got is UNH, which is still a 3.5-hour bus ride.
Yeah.
So they really try to embody that home field advantage of being up north, having teams come all the way up here, especially late in the season. And the black hole is supposed to, leave them, never wanting to come back. And that's something Coach Stevens is really focused on trying to bring back. It kind of lost its way a little bit after 2018, and Coach Harris Simiak moved on. Now he's at DC. I think at either Minnesota or Rutgers. He's doing big things now. But they've really found that identity again under Coach Stevens and Coach Humberto DeMeo, defensive coordinator. And they're just going to get after the passer, and they're going to be physical, and they're going to swarm to the ball. And that's the things they preach. You know what I mean? Be physical, swarm, impose your will on the offense. So I think that's what you can expect, a relentless pass rush and just relentless effort across the board. Obviously, the pass rush is going to get home when you're going against SEC. Is going to need to get home, when you're going against SEC quarterbacks and receivers.
They might be able to against
Yeah,
this
I was about to say
offensive
they might
line.
be able to. Jack, tell us about the special teams unit. Obviously, if Maine wants to stay in this football game and hang around, big special teams plays, maybe making some big field goals, things like that. Tell us about that third side of the football.
So punter Aiden Cadigan has not played the past couple weeks, and it's honestly hurt them because in the FCS you don't have a luxury of having another great punter behind the starter, right? I think the current punter right now or the past couple of games has been Sam Tremblay, who's really a kicker. Obviously kickers kind of pride themselves on being able to do both, a little bit of both, but they really need Cadigan back if they want to keep an advantage in the field position battle. And something I'm really paying attention to is that Oklahoma kickoff team, which I saw this week on Wednesday. We went over to availability, was kind of asking the guys about it. I didn't realize that they're running the big dogs out there on that kickoff team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If you're a guy and that kicker, he's got good hang time, and the main kick returner is very good, Trevin Ewing. But I wonder if it's going to be a battle between him really wanting to make a play when maybe the right decision is just taking the fair kick, taking it out to the 25 and starting the drive from there. So keep an eye on that, because when guys in the FCS get to a platform like this, you dream your whole lives about making a play in front of a sold-out crowd and at an SEC stadium or wherever it may be. And I just think back to 2022 against Boston College. Maine really hung in tight with that game, and Trevin returned, I think, a kick to the 13-yard line when really our offense didn't have a ton going, scored a touchdown on that drive, kind of sparked a little run for the Black Bears. So I think watching him on that kickoff return team will definitely be a little football sicko, storyline right there for you, for the guys who really care about that special teams.
I love it. In terms of a successful trip to Norman, obviously, I think, the obvious is out there, go win the football game. But for Jordan Stevens and the program that he's trying to build and the culture that he's instilling now in year 3, what is a successful Saturday and a trip to Norman look like?
I think a successful Saturday looks like just going out there and not backing down, not shying away from the moment. I think if you can put up some points on offense, right, if you can, in a game like this, it's really the little things, right? Obviously, you'd love to hang in. You'd love to battle for a full 4 quarters. And in a game like this, you try your best to get it to the 4th, and then whatever happens, right? You get it within reason in the 4th quarter, and however it falls, it may fall. I think back to that BC game, just comparing it to some of the bye games that I've played in, I've been a part of, been around. We were in that game in the 4th quarter, and they stopped us on a 4th and 1 in the red zone. And, if we would have converted that, who knows what could happen, right? And obviously, Boston College, Oklahoma's a different beast than Boston College, don't get me wrong. But I think a successful Saturday looks like guys not quitting, guys not backing down from the moment and the opposition. These are some 5-star recruits. I got to watch a little tape this week, and one, I don't even remember his number, but there's a freshman D tackle that is just a freak of nature. I was watching him against Texas.
Yeah.
I was like,
Jaden Jackson, maybe
this
65.
guy's it might be him. This guy's unbelievable. It was like he hit a spin move. Quinn Ewers tried to scramble, and he was stride for stride with Quinn Ewers. It was like, this guy is nuts. So just not backing down from the competition, which I think with all the things the coaches preach and the culture they've implemented, that is one thing you won't see. And I think if they can weather the storm in the first quarter, because I think back to Montana State, which is a very underrated home atmosphere, right? They got a good thing going up there in Montana. I think they sell out like 20,000 every game, and it's real loud. The whole crowd was wearing gold. You know what I mean? It was a
Love
very
that.
overwhelming atmosphere. Yeah, it was awesome. One of the best FCS places to play, and I think you saw Maine not shrink in the moment, but struggle with that moment because it's a slippery slope. When you got that home crowd screaming at you, one touchdown can turn into 14 points, can turn into 21 points. It can snowball very quickly. So if they can, maybe sustain a drive on offense there early, force a stop, I think you're gonna. In a game like this, it's really little things that you can take away, right? You can point to a couple plays, point to a couple drives where you're like, okay, we had success there. That's something you can feel good about. And obviously, this is just me speaking as a fan, right? That's not the mindset you should or can take as a player if you're going to want to even attempt to hang in a game like this. So they're obviously going to attack it like it's a ball game, like they feel like they can have a chance to hang in and win. But when you look back and no matter what happens in the game, when you're going against an SEC team, man, you take whatever positives can come from it. And going against a team like this can also expose your weaknesses, right? So that's why you kind of wish you could play it a little earlier in the season so you can kind of adjust those weaknesses and maybe recover from them. But I think it all around, it's a great opportunity for Maine to come in to a sweet environment, man. I mean, something that I've been thinking about all week is that in Maine, in the Northeast, what's land of college football feels like fairy tale land. You know what I mean? You watch it every Saturday, Friday nights now on Fox and things of that nature. But the SEC, that big time college football, it feels like fairy tale land. I mean, I've been a diehard Maine fan in the FCS since I was born in Maine, right? Got the opportunity to play here, which was a lifelong dream. But getting the opportunity to play an SEC team is something these guys will cherish and they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Like, obviously, a lot of these guys have aspirations of, wanting to play at a level like that or, going to the NFL, playing professional football. But they also dream about this moment of jogging out there, in front of a packed Oklahoma crowd and getting to play the guys you watch on, college game day, things of that nature. Like, I can't emphasize that enough how in the Northeast that it just feels out there. You know what I mean? It feels like that's something you're never, unless you travel and go see it, you're never going to see. It feels like it's something you watch on TV, like politics or something. You're like, that's not real life. You know what I mean? That's something out there. We just see it on TV. Right. Sure. Getting to go play that game and experience that, it's something that I'm so happy for the guys they're going to get to do. And when you're in a game like that, it's just let it loose, man. You legitimately have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? If you go out there and get smoked by Oklahoma, dude, I mean, they did their job. You know what I mean? You attempted to do your job, but they're an SEC team. You know what I mean? You look at their schedule, it's pretty crazy. So they just get to go play loose. And I think it's almost freeing when you get that feeling. You're like, hey, I'm just going to go play ball, have fun, and whatever happens, happens.
Sure.
Jack, are you making the trip? And what are the last question here, but what are the travel plans for something like this? I mean, I highly doubt there's a lot of direct flights from Maine to Oklahoma.
So I am making the trip. I tried to do whatever I could, and I had to experience it myself. I kind of just went rambling on there about how cool it is, so I figured I might as well. So hopefully I'll get to see you guys on Saturday if you guys are going to the game. But it's a luxury in football, right? That you have such a big team that even with a lower budget FCS school, you can't fly commercial, right? That would be a nightmare. Yeah. So luckily you got a charter flight. They're going to wake up tomorrow, get a little walkthrough, get some meetings in, get a breakfast, bus to the plane. You fly straight into, I don't know what the airport is down there. You fly straight to Oklahoma, get off the plane. And it's funny because football takes you all these places, but half time you feel like you didn't even go there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. I remember they're going to go, get off the plane, go to the hotel, hang out in the hotel, wake up the next day, bus to the stadium. And obviously you get to see some of the college town and things of that nature. But once you're done the game, get on the bus, go straight back to the plane. You're out of there. So it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. I think the plane's leaving at 11 noon tomorrow morning, I think, something like that. So it'll be fun for those guys. It's another road trip. It's another flight. It's all pretty structured, pretty basic. But it's pretty cool, though. I remember we went out to New Mexico opener in 2022. Man, it's like, holy crap, where the hell am I? You know what I mean? It's like you're flying into Albuquerque, New Mexico. You got mountain ranges. You're like, what is this place? You know what I mean? You're driving around. You're looking outside in the bus. So it'll be a really cool experience for the guys. I've never been to Oklahoma in my life, so I'm excited to get out there.
The red carpet will be rolled out at Will Rogers International Airport coming up on Friday for you guys when you get to town. Have a safe trip. He is Jack Webb, excuse me, and catching everything up. We'll see you on Saturday. I'll come holler at you on the sidelines down there.
Can't wait. Really appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks, Jack.
See ya. I think Maine has a little bit of more tradition than I kind of realized and start diving through the game notes and all that kind of stuff. But sounds like Jordan Stevens has that thing headed in the right direction. We'll see. The big win over Villanova, obviously, kind of the crown achievement of this third season for Jordan Evans in the Maine football program. But they turned the ball over quite a bit during that winning 3 of 4 there before the loss to Rhode Island last weekend. They committed or forced 10 turnovers. So certainly a game that you would think that Oklahoma's going to find some success offensively, but you still got to be able to go out and do it.
Yeah, they gotta. If they turn the ball over this week against Maine, man, that's bad.
Yeah,
and it's been bad. It's been really
terrible.
bad. But OU should be able to run the football on this team. You would think Jackson Arnold can find some stuff in the passing game in this game, especially down the field. So I think Oklahoma's going to be able to move the football, score some points, and maybe feel a little bit better about themselves. And on the flip side, I'm predicting a shutout for Oklahoma's defense. I like the quarterback for Maine. You heard Jack talk about him. I think he's had a really I think he's had a really nice year, but I think this defense should be able to get all over him.
It'd be interesting to see if Randy Moss makes his way to Norman. If he does, he might need to buy some tickets this weekend. And let us tell you about Game Time, which we have used before, going to be using a lot here over the next couple months with the Thunder and the way that they've started their season. But plenty of tickets available this weekend. And one of the cool things about Game Time is you can just go on the app, and it's very, very easy to navigate, George.
Yeah, I've been on there a ton. I actually bought Thunder tickets just the other day on here for the Blazers game in a few weeks. So super easy to use. You can see right here, Carrie's pulling up. You can see exactly where you're sitting, so you can see the view.
I like that. That's all you got to do is go to download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3. That is ON, the number 3 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, all you got to do is go create an account, redeem with the code using ON3, the number 3. Pretty easy for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And that's kind of one of the cool things using Game Time too is you find a lower price, they're going to match it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can go to other sites, and if you find a lower one, you can use Game Time. So
very easy to use too. Just download the app. That's all you got to do. Download the app. ON3, $20 off first purchase. All terms do apply. Very, very easy. We like having Game Time around.
The app's the best.
It is.
It's so easy to navigate on there.
Very easy. All right, let's get a little bit back into, obviously this week with Maine coming to town, I know that there's going to be a lot of attention placed on the offensive side of the football. And, as weird and crazy as it seems, they did find something in the run game. I don't know what that is. You got to take out the sack numbers from the run game performance a week ago in Oxford, but they somehow went over 200 yards. Somehow Jackson Arnold was over 100 yards and possibly finding something at the right time. They obviously need to find something because the offense has been so bad.
I think they simplified a lot of it. You saw some counter stuff. You saw a little bit more outside zone. They stuck to the zone insert stuff. But I think that overall they weren't asking a lot of guys to do things that they're not necessarily good at. And they just got a better push. Like, bottom line, it felt like guys were firing off the football a little bit better. I don't know why that is. I don't know why that took an offensive coordinator change for that to happen. But you saw it. And I think that, if you can do that against Ole Miss, you should be able to do it against Maine. And I think a large part of it too, Eddie, you saw running backs really hitting the hole hard. And, the holes were a little bit bigger than they've been. But I also think Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum did an especially good job of once they got the football and they saw a hole, they hit it. Like, there was no hesitation. It feels like sometimes those guys have been pretty hesitant back there when sometimes you just got to go. And I thought both those guys did a really good job. And Jackson Arnold, they did a lot of different QB run stuff, especially early in that game that allowed him to do that. Now, some of it was scrambling. He was scrambling and did a good job. But I've been really impressed by Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum, especially Barnes this year. He's having a really solid year. I know that the numbers aren't, super gaudy, but I do think that he's been running extremely hard, very physical guy. He's not going to make you miss all the time. He did against Ole Miss, but I think that you have to take some pride in what Javonte Barnes has done this year for this football team.
We're going to have a little bit more with Javonte Barnes here in a second, but we did talk to Taylor Tatum, and I think it was the second time that he's come in and talked after practice this year, and it seemed like we saw a little bit more personality, and I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with him becoming a little bit more comfortable on the field. The fumble thing, certainly have to hold on to the football, but he is different when he has the ball in his hands.
The biggest thing I saw with him on Saturday was he knew where he was supposed to go. And I know that sounds really simple, but that's kind of been an issue for him throughout this season. I think the mental part of it, understanding the game, and it's tough. Everybody wants to say, look, he was the number 1 running back in the country. He was a 5-star, all this talent. That's great. That doesn't mean that it just, immediately translates in terms of the mental part of the game and understanding what Oklahoma's asking him to do. Again, I think they simplified some of the stuff in the run game. That probably helped him out a lot. He was also much better in pass protection and catching the ball out of the backfield. All of those things, I think what you're seeing from him is he's now played 8 games. He's getting a bigger role. He's getting more comfortable in what they're asking him to do, getting more comfortable with the offensive line, the quarterback, all of those things. And now you're seeing him really use that to his advantage and kind of find his rhythm in this offense, which is great because if he can be that guy, he clearly has the most juice, I think, of that group. You love what you're getting from Javonte, but Taylor Tatum has that kind of breakaway home run type speed that if he can start getting loose, maybe you find something in the running game.
Yeah, and perhaps he could be a nice little combo with maybe what you thought Gavin Sawchuk was going to be alongside Javonte Barnes this season. We talked a little bit with Taylor Tatum as well as Brent Venables talking about the run game coming out of Oxford.
For sure. I mean, y'all saw the first half, so y'all saw how what we can be and what we plan to be for the rest of the year. So, I mean, we're just taking all the positives from that and just moving on to next week and the rest of the year, and focusing on us. That's the main goal. Is focus on us. Focus on getting better individually. Everywhere in the team has to get better. Everywhere has something they can improve at. So that's what we should focus on.
If we get out of our own way, if we don't beat Oklahoma, if we do the things that winning requires, even though we have XYZ down with injuries, if we do that, and it's hard, it's always going to be hard. This year it's even more difficult because of the challenge of the people that we're playing. But if we do that, we can play with anybody. We can beat anybody that we play against. And again, that may not be popular for people to hear, and everybody wants to find negative and all of it. That's cool too. But I know what I know, and I'm not wrong. And that's affirmation of that. And we got to get better. And if we make a few more, if we can make some explosive plays in the passing game, that's going to open up even more opportunities in the run game. And if we stay on schedule, if we don't, have pre-snap penalties, if we give them good field position, if we don't, have the unthinkable, penalties that just, it's always hard to overcome. You get to 3rd and 20, it's really hard. Against anybody on air at practice. So, but yeah, it's affirmation that we're getting a little better. You can't, you suck and you can't coach and you're not getting better, and then you do that. Unless I guess maybe it just happened by accident on its own. Everybody fainted and we just ran, unabated. And so we all know better than that.
I'll say that's true. Just getting used to the flow of the game. Just practicing hard, playing hard, just focusing on me, and just getting better every week. So that's really kind of just my main focus.
What has that settling in process been like for you just throughout the year? Was there a moment or a game where you felt like you got comfortable, or has that kind of been an ongoing process?
I wouldn't say there's like a certain moment or game. I think it just kind of happens. Once you practice against that good of a defense every day, you kind of have to get adjusted to all kind of stuff they throw at you. So I'm really just focused on getting better every week, and not really a moment, I would say. Just focusing on myself, focusing on what I need to do to improve to get better for the team and myself to contribute. So I wouldn't say there's like a moment or game.
Certainly one of the guys that has been, maybe a player or somebody that has been kind of in his corner, especially in that position group, is Javonte Barnes. We were talking about him just a second ago and kind of his maturation. We've talked about it here over the last couple of weeks. When you're speaking on an offense that is struggling as much as they are, you need some type of leadership. And even if it is an uncomfortable role, it certainly seems like Javonte Barnes has been that guy. He's stepped up.
It's interesting because we always talk about who are the leaders on this team, and we always list off a bunch of guys on the defensive side of the football.
You could list off like 10 on the defensive side of the ball, maybe
Exactly.
before the offensive side right now.
And part of the problem has been it's been such a rotating door of guys, whether it's receivers or offensive linemen, quarterback, of like who's going to be out there. The one constant this year has been Javonte Barnes on this offense. He's kind of been their starting running back all season, and he's a guy that I think is a good example of someone who's kind of been through the trials and tribulations of this program the last 3 years. You know, he was a part of that group in 2022, played as a true freshman, and played well, a couple years ago. Then last year, when Oklahoma has all of its success, he wasn't really a part of it and had some really negative moments. I mean, you think back to the Bedlam game when he fumbled the snap, the direct snap to him or whatever that was in that game that was a big play. And he comes back this year after a tough year last year with the injury and everything that went on. Everybody thought he was going to enter the portal. And he comes back and he's become a leader. And I think that some of that is him maturing. And I think that's also somewhat, Brent Venables and the staff kind of throwing him into it and saying, hey, we need you to step up. And he has. And I think he's kind of been that voice in not only the running back room, but really that entire offensive side of the football, because he has been that one constant. He's seen what it looks like, what it's supposed to look like, offensively. And so while it hasn't gone well for Oklahoma, I do think that he's one positive that you can look at and say, look, he's not playing amazing football, right? Like he's not going to go win the Doak Walker.
You've
or whatever.
ruled him out for the rest of the season?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, for the Doak Walker?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ruling him out for that.
Okay.
But I do think that you can take away and be like, man, he's playing pretty good football in his effort. You never question that. And I think that when you have a young guy like Taylor Tatum, it's really important to have a veteran like Javonte Barnes that he can talk to, that he can learn from, and see how it's done.
No doubt. We talk about it in kind of a joking manner, but it isn't a joking matter. And I think that like at the deep down in his core, Brent Venables is especially proud of somebody like a Javonte Barnes because of the way that he's matured and developed here over the last couple seasons with DeMarco Murray. We talked to Taylor Tatum as well as R. Mason Thomas, getting a little bit of an insight from a defensive player, as well as Brent Venables on just the maturation and leadership of Javonte Barnes.
We've really, DeMarco's done a really nice job. Javonte's taken ownership in that. He's naturally a really quiet guy. And we've worked really hard intentionally of promoting his improvement, promoting his competitive toughness that he has shown over the last several months, and then put him awkwardly several months ago in position where, hey man, what do you got to say? And you do that over time. It has compound interest, and where he gets more and more comfortable in doing that, put him in front of the team, and he's taken a liking to it.
Ever since I got here, he's been a big role model to me. Just teaching me how to play as a freshman. He played a little bit as a freshman, so just teaching me how to navigate through school, practice, coaching, attitude, body language, all that stuff. Just being able to have some similarities to him definitely helps. Speed of game, toughness. I mean, just a leader for the offense and definitely the RB room.
He's been a great leader because we needed those type of leaders on offense, and he's definitely stepped up and been one of those because he had a good game last 2 days. And for him to be that vocal now and step into that role, it's been huge because you may not have guys like that on other teams that do that.
It's hard to have all these great voices that are leaders. The coach can't be the only one, but he has to be the one. But he can't be the only one. And not if you're going to be, what we want them to be. It's usually because you've got not only great buy-in, which we do have that, and so that's a leadership skill too, is great buy-in and showing up every day. But a voice other than the coach is always, appropriate and helps the growth of everybody. But he's been fantastic. Really proud of, the young man that he's becoming, really getting comfortable in his own skin on the field and off the field.
Josh McCuistion asked this on the Unofficial 40 this week, which you can hear and listen to on the right here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel, as well as all the podcast platforms. But realistically, Oklahoma offensively, how many points you expecting this week?
50.
Okay.
I would be.
I don't think that's crazy. Like you have to be able to find ways to move the football, and they should have some success against.
Yeah,
Maine.
I think that it's one of those situations where it's sort of like Temple. Oklahoma was able to score. I think it was 44 offensive points in that game.
That's right.
Because
Jaron Kanek had the blocked punt, I believe.
Muffed punt.
Punt.
But yeah, I mean, somewhere in that 40 to 50 range. I think they could even score more if they really start clicking. It's interesting to see, what's Maine going to do because, Jack Webb said it that they're going to come in and try and play their best game. Maine also has other goals this season. This doesn't – obviously it counts towards their overall record, but, they're trying to make the FCS playoffs,
Sure.
Their conference, all that stuff. You would wonder if they get down early, do they try and, not just take guys out, but play a little bit back in that game. But, I think it'd be great if Oklahoma could go out and score 50-plus points offensively in this game. I think the defense is going to get some turnovers. I think they're going to get a lot of stops in this game. So Oklahoma's going to have more than enough possessions to try and score quite a few points.
It wasn't on the prize pick selection, but Brendan Thompson, you expect him to be a little bit more involved, targeted often and early.
Yeah, especially
early and often. Is it often and early or early and often?
Look,
you got it.
He's been running by guys in the SEC. I would suspect he will be running by guys against Maine. Again, it'll be interesting to see. Does Maine drop a bunch of guys in coverage? Do they try to, be aggressive and bring a bunch of blitzes and things like that? So that always plays a factor in it. But you would love, we mentioned 50 points. I'm sure you'd love to see some 12-play drives. I'd love to see some 2-play drives where you're just
find the explosive.
Yeah, we've seen them go on some long drives this year in nickel and dime down the field, or against Ole Miss they were really able to run the ball for 5-6 yards a carry. But I'd love to see the 80-yard drive that's 2 plays in a minute, right?
Sure.
That's the stuff that we really haven't seen Oklahoma break a 50-yard run or complete a big deep ball down the field. That's what I feel like everybody would feel like, okay, it is somewhere in there. I know it's Maine,
it can
but it's somewhere
be done.
in there. Yes, it's
I
somewhere in
think
there.
it's at that point as
Because
you're looking into the 9th game of the year.
Right, and if you're Jackson Arnold, right, and it hasn't gone your way this year, you haven't been able to find those explosive, if you hit Brennan Thompson for a couple big pass plays this week, maybe that gives you some confidence that the next week, I know it's a better opponent in Missouri, but you say maybe you take a couple more chances down the field because you were able to complete those things against a team like Maine.
No doubt. It's going to be I was going to say it's going to be fun. It is going to be fun to a certain extent.
What's the weather forecast, Eddie?
I think we're still hovering around that cloudy, maybe some rain, hopefully later on in the afternoon. I know Saturday evening that with the Oklahoma State game now moved to 6 o'clock, maybe they get all the rain up in
Did they move
Payne
that up?
County. Yeah, because the World Series, there's not
Okay.
going to be a Game 7. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. But, yeah, I mean, we'll see. You got to find something here over the next couple of weeks because I think if you come out of Columbia and you don't have 2 wins, different conversations are going to be had. Obviously, we've had the conversation this week. I don't think anybody's expecting Maine to come in here and push Oklahoma. You certainly would hope not, or maybe it's worse than we think it is now.
Yeah. If that does happen, we might have to burn this office down.
Well, that'd be a very expensive decision. And we would not be back, but we will be back on Saturday, God willing. Instant reaction from Gaylord Family Oak Memorial Stadium after the 1:30 kickoff. And then we'll roll into next week and a trip up to Columbia in a place that I think Oklahoma fans are somewhat familiar with the Big
I've never been.
12 days. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Columbia is a good college town, so should be fun. That's going to do it. That's going to be the Game Day Report for OU Maine. For George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel Saturday night.